So this panel is When We Fight, We Win. And this is something I think most of us have heard when we're out, engaging in collective action. This is a common chant. And the context, that we're bringing here today is that when we come together as workers, we are stronger together, and we do and can and will continue to win. And we're in a powerful movement in the labor moment in the labor movement where the labor movement is growing. We're seeing unprecedented amount of workers reaching out and saying, hey, I want to be in a union. I want to make sure I have the financial stability, the security and protections that a collective bargaining agreement brings, along with just having respect, equity in the workplace. And it's really inspiring to see workers from all across the world and workers of all ages in all different industries coming together to build their unions or do organizing to improve the lives of not only them, but their families, the communities that they live and work in, and just the broader society. And I'll just say, organizing has been a foundation of APALA. It's a foundation of the labor movement. We cannot do anything without organizing. And organizing is not the scary term. It's really simple. You can organize just by checking in with a coworker and saying, how are things going? It's about building those relationships, building trust, so that when things do hit the fan, you can say, hey, that was messed up. Why don't we go do something about it? And people say, yeah. And so it's just little moments like that that build our organizing and make us a stronger movement. So with that, because I'm getting the signals that we're going to run out of time if we don't keep things moving, I'm going to bring up my participants. And if you'd like to come to the stage now. Anywhere you want to sit is fine. And I was chatting with these folks earlier today, right before this started, and their stories are so inspiring, and I can't wait for you to learn more about them. And I'm just so honored to be on the stage with these incredible women, union and labor organizers. And to start, we have Angel. So Angel is okay, yeah? So Angel is an environmental service trainer with SEIU Healthcare 1199 Northwest and is involved in many roles with their local union. And so we are proud to have Angel here today. As Jessica mentioned earlier today, in your program booklets, there's more detailed introductions of all the panelists, and I encourage you to read more about their incredible stories and how they're engaged in their unions across this country. Next, we have Eni, who is the founder of the Association of Indonesian Migrant Workers, the chairperson of the International Migrant Alliance, and they flew in from abroad, and so they may be a little jet-lagged, but we're gonna roll with it. We also have Rel, who is a dedicated organizer for Starbucks Workers United, and has an unwavering commitment to the labor movement, which we're seeing waves of Starbucks organizing across the country, and they've been working at the Starbucks Reserve Roastery right here in Seattle. We also have Paula, who is the AFA-CWA, okay? The AFA-CWA Alaska Airlines Council 19 president based here in Seattle. And she became a flight attendant with Alaska in 2017 and has been based here for most of that time. And lastly, we have Joanna, who is former national president of APALA. Who holds many really incredible roles. I'm not going to list them off because there's actually too many, but is currently the Assistant Executive Director of the United Domestic Workers of America, AFSCME Local 3930, representing more than 145,000 home care and child care providers in California. And Johanna currently serves as the vice chair of the Child Care Providers United, a statewide union made up of SEIU and UDW AFSCME members. So in this moment where, you've probably seen these polls, over 70% of Americans are supportive of unions, and our union density is around a little over 10%, around 10%, and that needs to change. And we are changing that. That's what APALA is here doing. That's what the labor movement is doing in this moment. We are growing, we are organizing, and we are winning. And I just want to say that victories can be small, they can be large. We've heard from folks where they've gone on strike and won these incredible things. But a victory could be getting, an API member in your local union elected as steward, making a more diverse organizing committee, maybe even just building a racial justice or civil human rights committee in your local. And one thing I know I don't do enough of is celebrating those victories no matter the size. So today's plenary is about celebrating victories together and learning from each other, how did we get here? How did we win? And what are we going to do so that we can continue to win? So we'll start with some overarching questions for all of our panelists. You'll have around a minute. So we'll just start, and anyone can kind of jump in first, but what is one victory that you would like to celebrate today? And in what ways have API workers utilized creative, innovative strategies to organize and build collective power? Rel, do you want to go first?
I guess I'm going up first. Yes. Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing? Good? Woo! Yeah. Awesome. Hi again. My name is Rel. I'm one of the organizers for Starbucks Workers United movement. And I guess the one thing that happened recently, as in yesterday is what I heard, we have a Starbucks location located in the Seattle Center next to the Space Needle, and as of yesterday, they are going to file to unionize. Woo! So we're really stoked about that, because that location in particular gets a bunch of foot traffic, a bunch of tourists from around the country, around the world. So we're super excited and super stoked to work with them with their union filing situation. So yay. And then in terms of how we've been very creative in how we've been organizing, I think just in general from Starbucks Workers United, we're very Gen Z powered. I feel like we have a lot of energy from the younger generation and very social media savvy, so that's how we're able to build up a lot of fire under our belt. There's a lot of just disgruntled baristas we hear from across the nation that want to be able to work and want to be able to, have a living wage no matter what area that they live in. So I think just because we have a lot of newer energy, there's a lot of different ways that we're able to communicate, and a lot of different ways that new diverse ways that we're going to go about thinking about it, that I feel like people that are older like I am that haven't thought about ways of that. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about that. So yeah.
All right, thank you. And as a millennial, I'll say I've learned a lot from the Gen Z organizers of this next generation of union leaders and activists. And the Starbucks Workers United have incredible social media, and it's been really inspiring to see how folks are sharing their stories and sharing their struggles.
Thank you. So just to start with, I do not come from USA, but I come from Indonesia, and my perspective has been shaped by my own migration journey as a domestic worker in Hong Kong for more than 20 years. And currently, I'm very involved with organizing global migrants and refugee under the International Migrants Alliance, because we want to make sure the voices of 280 million migrants, 660 million refugees around the world will not be put at the sideline in the migration discussion. And that's the reason why I'm here today to share with you what are those experiences, the lesson learned, as well as our perspective. So one thing that I would like to celebrate today. So in 2016, the United Nations chose me as a migrant domestic worker in Hong Kong to give an opening speech at the UN High-Level Summit on the large movement of migrants and refugees in New York City. Ooh. Why this is kind of celebration for us? Because the spirit of that summit was still very relevant up to now. Why? The summit itself is very historical for two reasons. The first one, it was the first time the United Nations, as the highest body dealing with migration issues and even people on the grassroots level issues, had decided to finally hold a special summit to discuss the growing concern and violation against migrants and refugees around the world. For years prior to that, we witnessed the horror stories of migrants and refugees portrayed by the mainstream media, from the sinking boats at the Mediterranean seas, killing thousands of refugees, including children, to the humanitarian crisis experienced by the Rohingya refugee in Asia, to the increased number of disappeared migrant and child trafficking from Latin America to the USA, the miseries are endless. But on the other side, we do not see any government come forward to take action and accountability. They just close their eyes and ears to the plight of these migrants and refugees. Therefore, the UN summit in 2016 was timely crucial to call the attention of this government to respond to these outcries. As a result of the summit, the new agreement called Global Compact on Migrants and Global Compact on Refugees were adopted in 2018. Although the new two conventions have many weaknesses, such as exclusion of the undocumented migrants, and it is not legally binding. But at least now, the grassroots migrant and refugees and their supporters have new regional and international platform to raise our issues and demands. So that's the number one. Number two, it was also for the first time in the history of the United Nations where they invite the grassroots migrant and the grassroots refugee to speak in their summit. I remember aside of me, they invite Syrian refugee in Netherlands to speak on refugee issue, which has never been in the history by itself. In the past, UN always invite the so-called experts when it comes to migration agenda, and this refer to the international NGOs and institutions working on migration. While the migrant and refugee grassroots are only treated at the sideline, are not even considered as principal or the prime stakeholder in migration discussion. Therefore, as the chairperson of the International Migrants Alliance, I convey very, very strong message to the world leaders and international institutions who gather in the summit. We say, do not talk about us without us. Nothing about migrants without migrants. So I'm very happy when I learned that this principle has been adopted by many, many migrants and refugee organizations and boost their confidence to fight back. I was actually surprised when I visited Netherlands. The refugee organization put that in their welcoming door. Nothing about refugee without refugee. So what are kind of creative and innovative strategies that we built to organize and build our collective power? First, migrant and refugee are already naturally creative and innovative when it comes to collective action because of our very condition where we are suppressed under temporary visa program, isolated in our workplaces, undocumented, stigmatized, and discriminated. Therefore, we are invisible in the society. The corporate and the government intentionally made this design to keep us cheap and weak without the bargaining power. Second, we developed many strategies to raise our issues and demand to the government and society, and here are the three examples. So during the lockdown and restriction, we continue to organize. We transform from the offline organizing to online organizing. We use Zoom, Facebook, Instagram to recruit, to meet, and also educate and even create stress relief program. We also socialize different issues on migration and COVID-19 to the migrants through this online platform. When we introduce Zoom, for example, a lot of migrants and refugees do not know how to use the Zoom. And therefore, it's too outdated to even download the Zoom. So we even have to teach them to download the Zoom, open the Zoom, sign in, and sign out. And this is itself is already a challenge for us. Number two, we also creatively address the neglect of the government to provide various of needs that we need, from food, face mask, sanitizer. We work with the local supporter to mobilize all these resources. We go to different places, houses, and camps to provide all those needs, but we also expose how government are not accountable to our life and plight. The last one is also we are very persistent and very consistent to change the policies and practice of the United Nations. We actually develop inside and outside strategy. We go there in person, we talk in the forum, and we ask them to talk to us. We are the migrants. Talk to us because we know what we experience and we know what we want. Do not put us at the sideline anymore. And so far, somehow, with all this political pressure, especially mobilization outside the United Nations offices, somehow we make some significant changes. And the fact that the grassroots migrant can speak inside the forum itself is already a victory. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Angel Sherborne. I'm EBS worker, housekeeping in the hospital. What I want to celebrate now that in a healthcare facility, they recognize the EBS voices, and we feel that we are belong and will not left behind. That's all. Thank you.
Woo!
Hi everyone, I'm Paula with Association of Flight Attendants, CWA. A victory that I would like to celebrate today is I am actually the first woman of color elected as not only as an officer, but as president with the Alaska Airlines Flight Attendants Union. And I wanted to talk about how at Alaska Airlines our flight attendants are owning our power. Alaska never has gone through a painful bankruptcy or merger, and things at Alaska has been fairly good, but the pandemic has taught us that there have been some loopholes that can be exploited by our company, and it's opened our eyes. And we have been after extending our contract for 2 times, we have been in an aggressive negotiation schedule for the last year, and our negotiations broke down last month. And that made our flight attendants red hot for this Solidarity Summer. And we had pop-up pickets last month where we had hundreds of flight attendants that showed up at various bases to show our solidarity and unity with our management to take our negotiations seriously. And that's actually really huge for flight attendants to be able to get them to show up to our pickets, because on especially short notice, at that number, it was really exciting to see the energy and how lit up our work group has been. And we're going to have a system-wide picket event on August 15th at all of our bases. So I would like to invite everybody, if you're in Anchorage, Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, Los Angeles, or San Diego, woohoo, come show up, and our flight attendants will be picketing on August 15th.
I encourage everyone.
Yes, we will be there.
Yes, I encourage everyone to be there to stand in solidarity with flight attendants. We have so much solidarity power in this room. Let's make it happen.
Yes, thank you, Michaela. Good morning. Good morning. Oh, no, afternoon. It's afternoon. I apologize. There's many things I would like to celebrate. First, I want to celebrate the folks who have put this convention together. Can we give them some love? Yeah, this is not easy to put together, so I want to just celebrate the love that has gone to putting this event together, this convention together. On the worker organizing side, my name is Joanna Hester. I'm the Assistant Executive Director for UDW, United Domestic Workers. We are the partner union with the Child Care Providers United. And you may have heard this very small victory of about 40,000 workers who have joined a union, formed a union. You can clap for my members. They deserve it. These women, brown, black women, immigrant women, have been fighting for a voice to have collective bargaining rights in the state of California. Their legislation vetoed 5 times until Gavin Newsom signed the legislation, AB 378. We have been in bargaining pre-pandemic, right? 2019, and then the pandemic hits. Our members voted in 2019 to elect a union, to join the union, and then in 2020 entered pandemic while we were in the middle of bargaining. Our members fought, through all sorts of actions, and you would be inspired at the rate that these women fought, everyone fought. So that's a victory in and of itself, but first victory is they won healthcare trust in their, for themselves, so give them a round of applause for that. Whew. And then this year, they walked away with a tentative agreement signing off a retirement system trust fund for child care providers. And just to connect this victory, we have a membership coordinator. Her name is Trang Pham. And I mentioned Trang Pham specifically because she is a Vietnamese American organizer of 17 years. And this woman organizes Somali-speaking workers, Arabic. She's like, Arabic, I organize Arabic. Yes, you do, my sister, and I love her dearly. So I wanted to uplift her for that.
Thank you. I just want to say again, I'm so honored to be on this amazing woman-led, powerful, inspiring, organizing labor leaders. So just one quick question. Some of you started to touch on this, but we've all been facing this pandemic, and we're kind of coming out the other side, but we are still in a global pandemic. How has the pandemic that we've been facing shaped your perspectives or the motivations of the workers in their fight for better labor conditions and rights?
Cool. So in regards to the pandemic, I am not sure how familiar everyone is with the Starbucks Workers United movement, but it all started with the pandemic. When it came out, baristas were still working, Starbucks was still asking people to come in, and for the first month and a half of when everything was going on, Starbucks gave, premium pay, and if you were if you were sick, they would, let you stay home, 10 days paid leave, and then a month and a half happens, and they're like, oh, this is really expensive. We're not going to do that anymore. And Buffalo, New York, was the one who said, hey, you are putting us in danger. We're going to strike until you come back and do this. And then after that, they started to unionize, and that was the whole kind of the snowball that rolled down the hill and what it is today. I think, honestly, it's kind of a blessing and a curse, because without that, I don't think the movement would have been as strong as it is today.
Thank you. So when the pandemic happened, I was still a domestic worker in Hong Kong, and it's another horror story that we experienced. Asia Pacific is a home of 70% caregiver when it comes to migrant women domestic workers. Most of them work as a domestic worker and caregiver in different individual household. So when it happened, the pandemic happened, really a lot of layoff, deportation. We were not allowed to have holiday even on Sunday because all company and employers are afraid when we go home, we will bring COVID-19. So suddenly a lot of our members, leader community, I remember 70% of them gone. On Sunday, whenever I went down to the park or to the harbor, because we don't have housing like here, right? We only gather or organize in the public spaces. You can only find very, very few people who are gathering because, again, the employer tell them don't go out. Even when they go out, there are a lot of police who are actually doing crackdown and tell them to disperse, you know. You only gather 2 by 2 or 4 by 4, and you are not allowed to open your face mask and so on. So, and during that time also, the government, many government gave some subsidy and aids to the people, but not to the migrants. So we were not given any financial benefit, we were not given any even face mask, sanitizer, or even food. And yet, in the past 3 years of the COVID-19, the salary of the caregiver were not actually increased at all. But the inflation continued to rise. So what we see is a lot of domestic workers do not want to gather anymore because of this repressive situation. But beyond that is also they don't have money to even pay for their own transport. So they start gathering in nearby of their employer house, and because of that, we have to change our way of organizing. Instead of gathering in one big park, we disperse our organizer to different area wherever they are. I'm talking about Hong Kong, Taiwan, Singapore, Malaysia, and so on. And those who were not given day off, we create Sunday or weekdays online activities for them. We invite psychologists to talk about stress relief, you know, and so on and so on. So they will be entertained and it will help them to ease their anxiety. So the pandemic really shaped how we see ourselves now. It really makes us awake that, you know, our job is so insecure, that our salary is too small. And even the domestic worker, I really just live in the house. Literally everyone were made to work up to 21 hours a day. We did a survey and it was proven many domestic worker or caregiver were made to work at least 12 to 21 hours a day during COVID-19 because they are made to work to repeatedly clean the house, you know. Sometimes few of them even made to wash the toilet 12 times in a day. That's how kind of COVID-19 made us, you know, slave in the house. But beyond that also, those who are went home, they were not recognized as our government, do not recognize us as a poor people. So when we ask them for subsidy, they say no subsidy for migrants and their family because you are not poor. You have a house from the cement. You know, they say they only give a subsidy for the poorest in the society. So then the migrants become unemployed, no job. There is no potential to even work abroad, and yet they have no income at all. Beyond that also, it made us realize that the solidarity of the local is really the key to protect migrants when we are so defenseless in a time of crisis. It was the local union and local organization who come forward to volunteer in our charity work and distribute medicine to different places. But when the government create more policies, they are the one talking to the government, don't do that to our migrants. They are the hero in time of crisis like this. And somehow the government also is down. That's why in IMA, we really value the support, the contribution, and direct participation of the local organization to include and protect migrant and refugee in your causes. And that's why I'm here today. I hope it will be part of your agenda in the next future to include migrant labor and refugee labor in your workers' right. And beyond that also, it made us realize that all of us are victims of the global neoliberal globalization. We are just sisters and brothers. Wherever you are, whatever color you are, wherever you are based now, whatever sector you do, we are just actually the 99% poorest in the world society today.
Hi, I work in a hospital and I'm EBS, and EBS is like a housekeeper. We clean the hospital. And when the pandemic start, they're not allow us to use PPE or N95. Then our action began. Our voices louded, and we say, no, we cannot clean the hospital if we don't provide the PPE. We need the N95. So we do our action and we demand. And so then, after 1 week, we have a collaboration with the management, and we won. They provide us the N95, and that's the work. We start in our union, and then we spread the word. So all the housekeeper and healthcare worker, housekeeper, they provide us proper PPE. So then, it's not only ended on that. We also win in our contract language to have COVID. I'm also in a COVID committee, so I did collaboration with the management. So we bring up any other concern about, in a COVID concern about in our EBS department. If they not give us any, things that we need, we go to our union and say, hey, this is not right. We need this, equipment, because we cannot make quality care and makes the patients safe if they will not give us proper equipment. Thank you.
So not only did the pandemic drive racism and violence against Asian communities, but as flight attendants, we also endured a rise in aggressive and violent behavior from passengers over mask mandates and COVID restrictions. One of the major work that's being done right now with the Association of Flight Attendants is the FAA Reauthorization Act that is set to expire on September 30th. And one of the things that is included in the package is establishing a national banned passenger list for violent individuals and the improvement of cabin air quality. During the pandemic, we definitely saw some things where we had to worry about PPE, and we really had to lobby for Alaska Airlines and our companies to provide masks and that took a while, but it was through our voices, our collective voices, where our companies finally were able to say, yeah, this is something that we definitely need to provide to our cabin crew. So that's how we.
Thank you, sis. So I represent family child care providers and home care providers, and at the time, when the pandemic hit, it was just complete panic. Kids couldn't come to the child care centers, and so our members couldn't get paid. So that was one of the issues that was stark during the pandemic. They couldn't access PPE. They couldn't access cleaning supplies. They had to rush and find hand wash stations for the kids before they could allow them. And if workers can't send their kids to our members, to child care providers, nurses can't go to work, right? Police officers can't go to work. Our EVS workers can't go to work, right? Even our 24-hour, our grocery workers couldn't go to work. So it was really, I think, proved and helped the argument in winning our contract in California. The issues surrounding, food access, it just really highlighted the needs in the community and highlighted the disparity in, high-paid communities with low-wage communities. But the one thing is clear, just listening to the panel, and that is, whatever it is, we have got to organize. Mm-hmm. Do you agree? Right?
Yes.
Because That's the really only way, right? The migrant workers are organizing, Starbucks workers are organizing, EVS workers. I'm so glad we have a panelist that's EVS worker. Our home care providers in California, I just want to say, we're back-to-back volunteering to do food distribution, PPE distribution in all areas of the counties that they represent. So I'm really proud of the work that my members did.
Woo. You know, as kind of the panelists were saying, you know, the pandemic really did highlight a lot of inequity in our society. You have corporations bringing in record profits, saying that they can't afford to pay workers, that they can't afford to provide basic health and safety needs to make sure that not only are our workers safe, but their families, their communities. Everyone who has to go out to work has to come back to a family, and you don't know their situation. Maybe they're caring for small children. Maybe they're caring for an elderly parent that may be at higher risk. Like, these are all things our communities faced, and we tackled them. We did organize, and we still have a long way to go. And I will say, like, as what Rel was saying, the pandemic has, in a lot of ways, been a blessing in spurring a lot of new organizing. We saw waves of workers saying, we're fed up, we've had enough. How do we change this? And folks are seeing it's the labor movement. By joining into a union, forming a union, and building power, and just the power of a collective bargaining agreement, we've seen workers really start to build that momentum, and it's momentum we need to keep building. If we do not organize, this is only going to get worse. We have to organize so that we can afford to live where we work. This is one of the key things with Unite HERE. We want to be able to work and live in the same communities. You know, we can't have workers, you know, commuting over an hour into work. I live in Boston, and this is something we're seeing where a lot of the immigrant people of color are getting pushed out of the city, but they still have to work. And because they aren't being paid well, you know, how do they afford housing costs? How do they afford transportation? And these things build up, and that's why organizing is so crucial. We're going to move into some individual questions. So I'm actually going to start with Angel. I know you've been working as a member of your local's Racial Justice Committee. So what initiatives or actions have you taken to promote equity and inclusion within the EVS department and the broader healthcare system?
Housekeeper workers are people of color. As a member of Racial Justice Committee in SEIU 1199 Northwest, we did a lot of fight to have a fair treatment, and EBS Boys Matter. We won in our contract bargaining for Organizational Equity and Inclusion Committee to talk about fair treatment and include everyone and valued all workers in the hospital. No one left behind because we had a lot of issues in EBS department. When Snowmageddon, the snowstorm hit 2020, and all workers in the hospital cannot able to go home and decide to stay to help the operation and continue doing service and make sure that the patient have a clean room and safe. But the management doesn't recognize that we help the help of the EBS workers. Instead, they treat them nobody. They let EBS sleep on the floor, which other workers sleep on the room with a nice bed and a nice accommodation. We also won the contract in our language, contract language, to let EBS use break room because the management not allowed EBS to use the EBS break room unit where they clean the unit, and so they treated the EBS differently. We continue to fight and demand the respect that we deserve, always moving forward, never backwards. So when we fight,
We win.
We win. So when we fight,
We win. Woo. Yes. I'm going to go to Annie. Can you tell us a little bit more about your journey? How did you get involved in founding the Association of Indonesian Migrant Workers and getting into the role that you are today?
Thank you. So I think the reason why I became devoted activist is like everyone here in the panel and many of you are really personal story, either our parent or ourselves suffering, undergoing all this kind of exploitation. Myself is very classic story of farmer family in Indonesia, in the Philippines, or in Vietnam, Cambodia. My family used to own small land in 1980s, but they were displaced during the when the investment came to the country and they cannot afford anymore to even farm. And whenever they harvest, I remember my grandma and my mom always say, how come every time harvest came, we actually earn so little? There is no much selling point. So they finally left the farm and they sell the farm and they become a vendor in the market. So I lived through that, and by 1997, when ASEAN financial crisis crushed Asia, many economy, I believe many of you knows this story, company, corporate just run away without paying their workers. So it was very chaotic situation, but it really impacted my parents' income in the market. They can no longer afford of even buying new stuff and sell it. So that time I was just, in 1999, I was newly graduate from high school. I did not know what to do. My family believed so much in education, but education becomes so expensive. So if I asked them to work, to support my study, they will be the more indebted. So I decided to quit and do the home industry first before I decided to work as a domestic worker in Hong Kong. So I thought being a migrant, I will have better life, I will have better income. My only plan, I work for 4 years, like save money, pay off the debt, save money for my sibling and also myself. But then crisis is not even getting better. And I thought we will go back to the old days. That's why when COVID crisis came, I never believe we will go back to the old days. It will never be the same. So everything is multiplied. Education becomes so expensive, and I have to pay for the school of my 2 siblings. Then I did not realize I became migrants for many, many, many years, like many, many of you already. So I also was underpaid, abused in my first employer. I was not allowed to have a day off. I was not allowed to talk even to the other people. I was literally maltreated inside the house. So it's actually that's the reason why I ran away and escaped. That's when I realized, wow, there are so many domestic workers in Hong Kong. It was like 400,000 from Philippines, Indonesia, Thailand, Nepal, Sri Lanka, India. And I realized that I was not the only one suffering from the system, right? So I learned from them how to organize. I learned from the Philippines, from the Thai, from Nepali, who try to combine cultural, dancing, picnic with organizing. So since then, organizing migrants is a fun. And you should be happy. If you organize, please be happy. Because when you are happy, yeah, when you are happy, all this problem in the world can be easily addressed. Yeah. Of course, we don't say you will win tomorrow, but at least you know what to do, right? So this is where the migrants organizing is where we put together not only issues, but also feeling, aspiration, personal stories, the struggle of mother, the struggle of, a divorcee, and the struggle of a victim of domestic violence. And this is the beauty of organizing migrants. You are actually establishing global movement of people by itself. Because we are already naturally across countries, across culture, across languages. So that's when I learned about organizing, and particularly women migrant domestic workers. When I was elected as the chairperson of International Migrants Alliance in 2008, it was very challenging to me. I really did not know whether I can take up, global alliance for migrants. Can I really do that? I'm just a domestic worker. I'm just highly school educated person. But then because of the collective wisdom and effort, I learned later the global movement is really about fostering experience and unity again. We do not say we know better than others. We are coming together to share what we learn, and together we develop new strategies how to make the voices of migrant and refugee visible regionally and internationally. So it's really a lesson learned for myself, but also for many, many activists that creating global movement of grassroots migrants and refugee is possible.
Thank you. Wow. I love this reminder to organize with joy and love. Like, we need to be having fun. There's enough bad things, negative things, tough things that we've been facing. Like, we got to have some fun with this. And I think we have some folks who are really good at this in this room, even from this panel. There's karaoke, dance stretching, music, food. There's so much that we bring and can make organizing even more powerful because we're bringing that joy and love into the space. I'm going to go to Rel. So what initially motivated you to become an organizer for Starbucks Workers United, and how has this experience impacted your own perspective on the labor movement and workers' rights, especially as a younger worker who's kind of newer to this movement?
Yeah, so basically this all started when my partner and I decided we're gonna move to Seattle now. Rent is expensive in California. I'm tired of it. I've been here for 20 years. I'm going to move. So I started looking into jobs for Seattle. Obviously the roastery came up, and I was like, great. They were like, do you want to work here? And I was like, yeah, I sure do. And when I started looking up just Starbucks, Seattle Roastery, one of the first things I saw as a news article was that they filed and were unionized. And I was really excited because I've already, as I've learned through the U.S. college systems and through all that, just people aren't getting paid enough for work, period. And the fact that I was going to be working at a unionized location sounded amazing, because that meant other people also had the same mind as me, and I can be involved in that. So I was ready. I basically had my orientation and then diverted immediately to try and find an organizer that was active. And working there, it's been it's going to be about 8 months now, and management has definitely showed the reasons why we are organizing. Fun fact, the Seattle Roastery does not take credit card tips, even though it's one of the top 3 locations for tourism in Seattle. Because we are a unionized roastery, we do not have the technology to get tips. And on top of that, they, yeah, fun stuff. And then on top of that, in terms of scheduling, one of the fun things that they do is for the core stores, they deliberately not schedule union leaders, union organizers at the core stores. And then for us, they understaff us, and then the people that are working the floor get overworked and have to call out, and then it's a vicious cycle right now, but we are powering through it. I have when I clock in, I make a little union locker with flyers and buttons, and for the newbies to go in, and it says, are you new? Open this locker. And there's a bunch of information, because we are all really busy and really tired sometimes from our job, but we want to make our presence known because we have management. I got from my orientation, I asked them, this is a unionized location, correct? And they said, no. So that is one of the things. So we're having to fight management information. We're having to getting people the right information and having them on board for what we are doing, because we're not asking for anything crazy. We are asking for a wage to live in the city that we live in and not have to commute and not have to fight parking tickets and all of that, and just, yeah. I feel like we're just asking for the bare minimum, but it's really hard for management.
Yeah. I think that's a trend we're seeing in the labor movement, that workers are asking for just really basic, fair things. We're not asking, to be able to go out into space. We're not asking anything crazy like that. We're asking for things just so that we can survive, not even thrive. We're just asking for what we can do to survive. And we need to keep organizing so that we can thrive, that we have workplaces that allow us to thrive and to grow and to support our families and our really vibrant communities. I'm going to go to Paula now. So in your journey from being a flight attendant to now a leader in your union, what are some of the most significant challenges you faced? How have they shaped your leadership and advocacy strategies? And how did you just navigate that world?
So I was elected president in May and then took office in July, just when negotiations broke down. So it was really just hitting the ground running. And so now we're really full speed ahead into this mobilization effort. And the biggest thing was been trying to organize and mobilize for our pickets, and I think communication is always a huge issue, trying to make sure that we're reaching flight attendants where they're at, and not everybody's on social media, not everybody reads their emails, and so for me, before I became a flight attendant, I actually was in architecture, and we did a lot of healthcare design. And so one of the things that I learned about trying to get information from people is going to the Gemba, being where the work is being done. And so it really is a matter of, I think, our leadership in the past, in Seattle at least, has not been as visible. And so it's that challenge of trying to make myself really visible and available to my members, so that they know that I'm one of them. I'm doing the work with them. And so that's kind of where I've been at. So this is a contract that we have been under for 9 years. So during the pandemic, we lost a lot of our most senior flight attendants through early retirement. And then we've also now, since the pandemic, have brought on new flight attendants. So we are dealing with a work group that is over half of our work group was not even around when we last were fully negotiating. So it's a matter of educating our members about the process and the negotiations, and then on top of that, really reawakening our work group and being able to find their voice again, because just trying to flex our picketing muscles and organizing and mobilizing. So it's just that has been the challenge.
Yeah, and this is a reminder that we always have to be organizing. It doesn't always look the same, but we must continue to be organized day to day, because we are going to have turnover. We are facing a moment where so many experienced elders are retiring from the workforce, retiring from being leaders in the labor movement, and we have to be ready to have leaders ready to then step up and take on those fights and keep organizing. And so if you're in this room and you know someone who's younger than you, who you can start to develop to become a leader in your union, in your community, I really urge you to do that, especially as a young worker. That goes so far, and we have so many folks who are in this room today because others before us offered that hand, offered that ask, and brought folks up. And you see this kind of throughout this room, even here today. And going last but not least, can you share some of the key factors that contributed to the success of the historic organizing effort of more than 40,000 family child care providers in California? And how did this campaign impact the lives of the providers and the community they serve?
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing, we work in a workplace, we don't select the workers that we work with, right? The boss selects that in that regard. So I would say the one thing that I learned in organizing is really creating a multiracial committee engagement, and not sort of stay in your comfort zone. Yeah, we're Asian, yeah, I'm Filipino, but it doesn't mean I'm only organizing Filipino workers, right? Right, that's why I cite Trang, she's really amazing. The fact that she can go to different communities, organize and find leaders and develop leaders in those sectors is really the key thing here, why we won. And our union at UDW, it's multicultural. multi-ethnic organizing is what sort of how we lead the work that we're doing. So I want to put that out there, that if we're going to make a difference, we got to go outside our comfort zone and really figure out how we can talk to other folks.
Yeah. And that's really core to what APALA is. You know, we're not only here for ourselves, but you'll see we have principles for collective liberation. There is no collective if we are not building those relationships outside of our own homes, our own unions. We have to join, you know, across unions, across organized labor. We have to join in with community organizations, community partners, and we also have to join in with our other marginalized co-workers that live and work with us. We cannot do this alone. The boss is too big and has too much money. We have to come together, we have to organize together, and we have to stand up and fight back. I'm still in awe that we have this panel here. Just to wrap up, is there anything that is currently ongoing? I know we've heard about a lot of victories, a lot of issues that have been already, you know, kind of faced, and you've come out the other side or working on coming out the other side. But is there anything that we can do as a body to support your efforts in these future fights or ongoing fights? We'll have a moment for everyone to kind of share if there's anything we can do as APALA to support you.
Cool. So I guess the big thing, if you guys are interested and want to get in contact with Starbucks Workers United, Dylan, if you want to, yeah, he's around. He's got these cute little flyers with the QR code, with the link tree and everything. If you guys want any updates, or you know, if you are looking to get in contact with how, like, tips on how we organize, I might hang around for a couple minutes, and so if you guys want to talk and chit chat and all that, but yeah, I'm really glad Michaela brought me on. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll just say, you know, who here has a Starbucks, you know, in where they live or where they work? Raise your hand. Yeah, look around. That's a lot of folks. The next time you go to Starbucks, you can just ask, hey, I heard a lot of Starbucks workers are organizing. Is this one of them? And even if they are, they're going to get excited, because that's something I've heard from a lot of Starbucks workers. They love it when folks who are in unions are like, yeah, solidarity, we're here with you, but it can also plant the seed. So I urge you all to take the flyers, scan the QR code, and let's support these workers who are organizing. Any?
Yeah, thank you. So one of the agenda why I came here, aside of attending the APALA convention, is also to join the movement against APEC. I'm sure you know there is Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation meeting held in Seattle a few days ago, and still ongoing, in fact. And it was actually a follow-up meeting from G20 meeting in Bali, Indonesia, followed by G7 in Japan, and now is APEC. And then why migrants are very interested in free trade, investment, and so on? Because yes, where the capital flows, the migrants go. Wherever the money is put there, the way to get cheaper worker are the migrants themselves. So it will dictate how migration trend and migration policies that will impact our life. This is the reason why we have to engage. Beyond that, whatever they plan and decide will further actually displace a lot of farmer, vendor like my parent, and even other the workers. There are a lot of protests in Asia Pacific now against liberalization of health and education and workers' pay and so on. So I would like to invite you, if you are interested, to join the campaign against APEC. There will be a big mobilization in San Francisco where this is head of the state will meet within APEC. So it will be in November, and you are interested, there will be No to APEC coalition organized by POP, People Over Profit, based in the USA. So I would like to ask who are the member of the POP in the forum, the International Migrants Alliance member. If you can raise your hand, and you know, so this is one, but there are a few others whom you can approach later for if you are interested to join. So we are trying to mobilize not only different sector, but even migrant sector to march to San Francisco, protest against the APEC and its impact to the people around the world. Thank you.
Hi, I think I missed some question, but I want you to share, this is very important for me to share to you that the changes observed in the industry. Because now there's a lot of progress because we did a lot of fight. We strike, we did a lot of action and demand our issues and concern, and we won. We won in our contract bargaining contract, our home area assignment to help the workload fix so we will not burn out. EBS Safety Subcommittee so we can have a monthly meeting and collaboration with the management. And EBS leaders to talk about issues and concern. Credit of past experience so they can count our work experience from our homeland and recognize our expertise. Education training, ASET Advanced Certification, EBS Tech with dollar increase. So we can have additional dollar and so to educate and do the right process of cleaning and stop spread of infection. We fight for ergonomic bill, so we did that, and it passed, which passes by the Senate for safety and body protection of all workers. It's not only EBS, but we go to Olympia to fight for this bill. Staffing bill so we can have enough staffing and make sure that we can provide quality care and quality safe and clean hospital facilities. Before we feel unvalued and mistreated and discriminated by the management, and they did not see the fact that we all the backbone of healthcare facility and not recognize that we are first line of infection prevention control. And they're not see that we are the key person to stop the spread of infection. We are BIPOC people. We are Filipino, we are Asian and Black community, and we are workers. We are human, work in healthcare facility. So I just want you to support the EBS worker to have an education, to fight for their rights and give their voices and give their reputation and give them a respect. Thank you.
No, it's okay. Ooh, sorry. Okay, I've already kind of talked about our system-wide Solidarity Day and pickups on August 15th. We have a booth at the exhibit hall that has a save-the-date card and has a QR code where you guys can scan it and be able to RSVP to the different bases that are having events. So go grab a card there. You can also follow our social media sites, AFA Alaska on Instagram and Facebook. And then when you're at the booth, you'll also find a Delta AFA button. Grab those. Who flew Delta here? Anybody?
No.
We are trying to mobilize and unionize 25,000 Delta flight attendants who are not under contract right now. Grab a button. When you go home and greet your Delta flight attendants and tell them we support you in your effort to unionize for a bargaining contract. If you flew Alaska, anybody fly Alaska? Alaska Listens. Go to Alaska Listens. Make sure that you can tell management, hey, your Alaska flight attendants, they deserve boarding pay. They deserve to be paid for all the time that they're required to work. And we're going to be at their informational pickets on August 15th to show that solidarity.
Yes, we will.
Yes, we will definitely be there. The question is there anything that APALA can do to support the continued fight?
You know, I always anchor my what I learned from working with my members, who are phenomenal women, mostly women, some men, wonderful men too. And that is, you know, our union is about 186,000 now, bargaining unit, and it's really large. We are up and down California. And because of its vastness, people feel certain disconnection with each other. And so it's my job, I take it really seriously, to find connection among each and every one of them, regardless of our differences, because that's really what motivates our members. So at the beginning, people are, members are asking, people are fighting for positions, right? Like, I want to be this, I want to be that. And I say to you, as I've said to our members, the movement is big and vast, and each and every one of us has a role in it. So please don't trample on each other trying to get to the same place we're all trying to get to. So, so please do that.
All right, and that's going to wrap up our panel. I just want to say thank you again for everyone who's on this panel for sharing these really motivating, powerful, exciting stories. And I'm glad that we were able to celebrate each and every one of you. Can everyone give them another round of applause?